Hey everybody, and welcome back to Planet Build. In today's video, work continues on the circular themed area in Moderno Tropicano. We're going to fill in 5 habitats with animals, and we're going to add a retail section on top of this area. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to add those animals to their habitats, those 5 round shaped habitats. And we're going to add in some vivariums. Later on in the video, we will be working on the restaurant on top of this area and finishing off this whole section of the park. And as I did in my other video, I prepared some pieces to place in this area, and most of them items are round shaped. And later on in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to easily make those round shaped items. So as you can see here, I'm adding those pre-built items through this area, and I'm using them to cover up those vivariums. I didn't want any square looking structures in this area, so therefore I made these circular buildings that you can fit around the vivariums. And I also added some plants between those two walls, those two glass walls, the vivarium wall and the wall of that building, just to make it look more natural and maybe look like a bigger vivarium than it is. So for all those circular paths around the habitats, I wanted to make roofs, but I didn't want it to make this similar roof for each round shaped path in this area. So I created, I think, about 4 or 5 different types of roofs, just to give it that more variation in this area. And I'm also going to put these round shaped items in the workshop so that you guys can work with those as well. And as I mentioned before in the other video on this area, is that there is a staff path underneath the circular habitat area so that the staff can easily get to their habitats. But that means I also needed to add some staff buildings over here, and later on in the video I'm going to cover them up with some bushes and some foliage. But for now I'm just placing them over there. So once the staff is able to get near those habitats and they don't have to walk like hours to get to this area of the park, it's time to add some animals. And I guess the habitats were between the 300 and the 400 square meters. So that's kind of small for a habitat. So I had to put in some animals which would fit those requirements in how big the habitat is. So I ended up adding some koalas, some wallabies, and some other small type animals. So after we're almost finished working on these habitats, it is time to add some more foliage to this area. And this area requires a lot of foliage. I also prepared some custom lanterns and some custom, well, flowers which I added lights to. And later on in the video you will see I'm going to do a highlight while it's dark. You're going to see what effect that has on this area of the park. So as I said, a lot of foliage still needs to be added to this area, and I'm using, I guess, 5 or 6 different types of foliage and just combine them in different heights and different areas. So before we're going to finish off this area with just another amount of foliage, we're going to work on the restaurant, or it's not actually a restaurant, some shops and some coffee bars on top of this area. I also wanted this to be a round shaped area. So there's going to be, so the building is going to be in the middle, and on top of that will also be the same kind of roofs that I used in the other section of this area. Now sometimes it's hard to get those shapes of paths right. So I was figuring out how to create this area and that it would be big enough for the guests to sit in and to have a small kind of terrace, but also adding in 4 shops and types of bars. And luckily I don't have to worry about putting in electricity and the water containment for the habitats in this area, because I already put them in underneath this this restaurant area, this terrace area. So for now I'm just going to create the base layer of this building, and later on when I got the roofs on top I'm going to add more detail and probably going to adjust it a little bit. But for now, as I mentioned in the beginning of the video, I'm going to show you how I think it's the most easiest way to create round circular shaped items. And what I first did, and I did this with all the areas I used those roofs, is I used 2 concrete floors to measure out the width of the circle. And once you've done that, it is time to add your elements to those 2 concrete floors. Make sure to build it sideways also, because you're going to work in angles to get the round shape. And this is the part where you have to keep measuring until you find the right angle and make those pieces fit together. So what I basically do is I'm first copying the first part I built on those concrete floors. I copied it to the other side and then just turned it with a free rotation angle. And that's the point where you can see what you still need to fill up. And as you can see here, I needed to fill up a small area between those 2 glass windows. But as soon as you filled up that gap and made it fit perfectly next to each other, it is time to just copy paste what you build. And therefore I use those concrete floors, because you need to copy it in the exact opposite direction of the right part or the left part. So as you can see, I'm only working on one section of the roof, and once that one section is done, I can totally copy paste it onto the opposite direction and then copy both sides, so the left side and the right side, and then I'm going to rotate it. And because I measured the width of the circle after removing those concrete floors, it fits perfectly on the pathway next to the restaurant. And if you want to add more items to this circular shape, just make sure to do it on the first thing you build and then copy it again, just to make it easier for yourself. Now for this small retail section, I am just going to add some planters and some more detail to this building. As I said before, I'm going to use those similar shaped roof elements that I used in the rest of this area. But first I'm going to create the terrace and the outside of this building. So as I said in my other videos, I don't like building with round type structures. It's much more difficult than with the square items you got or the straight walls. But I guess it was kind of fun building this. It was a lot of work creating all those round shaped paths, but also those round shaped roofs, mostly because not each habitat had the same size. So I had to create unique circular roofs for those habitats. But yeah, I guess it turned out quite nicely. So sometimes when I build, I'm just forgetting that I got a whole section I haven't done anything on yet. So I still need to add some bushes and some foliage on this area just to make it more highly detailed. And once we're slowly going to the end of this video, I just want to mention that I also did some off-screen work, and that's mostly placing the borders and adding some more foliage and things like that. But I guess that's something that I will probably be doing for the rest of this series. There's just a lot of work in this park, and I don't want to share everything with you guys. That I don't want to share just placing those simple borders. So that's something I'm going to do off screen. But with that being said, it is almost time for those highlights. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. And I hope to see you guys next time. Next time we're probably going to create a aquatic area behind the stage that we built in the last video. So please enjoy the highlights, and I hope to see you guys next time. Bye bye.